Hi, this is Ralph, and in this video I want to get into making a web page, and I want to emphasize some web page structural elements, particularly headings, headlines, and paragraphs. Okay, so I've got a blank Notepad++ page here. You can use any plain text editor for this, but I'm a big fan of Notepad++. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up basically my page template, so to speak. And this is what really every page is going to have. I'm going to create a doc type definition. There we go. This is going to be the top at every web page I create. This is the doc type definition, tells the browser that I'm going to be using HTML5. And I'll go ahead and create my set of HTML tags. That outlines my HTML document. And I'm going to split this document up into two key sections. My head section and the body section. Get that taken care of. Excellent. Okay, head section contains information about our page that's not actually seen on the page. The body section is where all the stuff that you see is. So a web designer is going to spend a lot of their time in the body section of a page. Now in the head section, I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to put in a title for my page. And let's see, I'll put in HTML5 structure. And let's see, headlines and paragraphs. I'll probably end up doing a couple videos here related to HTML5 structure, and this one will just focus on headlines and paragraphs. I'm also going to have a meta tag in here, and I'm going to do a character set or char set equals UTF-8. And let's see, what else can we put in here? How about meta name equals author, content equals Ralph Phillips. There we go. That's good to go. So there's my head section. In my head section, I would also have links to external style sheets, which I'm not going to be making today. And I might also have I might also be importing using a script tag some external JavaScript, which I will not be doing today. So let's get down to the body section of the page. And let me just kind of scroll this up a little bit here. Okay, headlines and paragraphs, very easy to work with. H1, I'll go ahead and type in page structure, headlines and paragraphs. Excellent. So heading 1 or headline 1 is the biggest and boldest of the headlines. There are 6 of them, H1 through H6. It's reasonable that you might use H1, H2, and H3. It's not as common to use 4, 5, and 6. They do have some default formatting, their size of the text and their boldness, but you can modify that quite easily with cascading style sheets. I'm not going to really mess around with that today either. Let's go ahead and see how this page is looking. So I haven't saved yet, but I'm going to click on File, Save As, and let's see, I'm going to save this into my, I have a folder here for one of my classes, and I'll go ahead and stick this in Web Demos, and let's see, I'll just type in, actually, let's make this even more realistic. I'm going to, no, I'll do this, yeah, nice descriptive name, page structure dash headlines-paragraphs.html. I am using a pretty good file naming syntax though. I'm using all lowercase letters and no spaces. Okay, that's what you should do for file names. All lowercase, no spaces. Many web servers are case sensitive. The server that a lot of people use is a Linux OS, which is case sensitive and doesn't like spaces. So all lowercase, no spaces for all file names for web pages and images and CSS files and JavaScript files. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Okay, have that saved, and if I were to go check this out in my browser, easy enough to do, I can simply jump over to, I've got Firefox open here, and I'll just do a Control-O to open. Go to that folder where I just saved, let's see, demos, I'm going to sort by date modified. There it is, page structure, headlines and paragraphs. Ta-da! There we go, my headline is now visible. Now back over to my editor. Okay, so H1 page structure. Now, I've mentioned this in other tutorial videos, but headings need to be put in a certain order, and you can kind of let the numbers indicate that, but it doesn't mean heading 1 is going to be your first headline, then headline 2 is going to be your second, headline 3 is going to be your third. You use the headlines to indicate the weight of the topic on the page or in the section of the page in sequence. Let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. So my web page has a headline 1, and this kind of sets the title for the page. Now within my page, let's say I have an article, okay? And I'm going to use an opening and closing set of article tags. If you're not familiar with the article element, it's a new one with HTML5. Now within my article element, I might also have an H1, and this would be the title of my article. There we go. So this seems a little bit weird, but I have a headline 1. This is the body or my page title, but then my page also has an article on it, and that has a headline 1. So try to think about a blog, for instance. Let's say a blog is made up of a web page, and that blog page has 5 blog posts. Each blog post is kind of like an article, so there would be 5 sets of article tags. Each of those articles would have its own headline 1. Now within an article, let's say my article is about bicycling. I should spell that somewhat correct though, right? Bicycling, okay? And this article has a bunch of subtopics. Maybe maybe I talk about types of bikes, and then there's a section about purchasing your first bike, and then talk about riding styles. Okay? So what I have now is my article contains a headline 1, which is the title of the article. Then my article contains 3 headline 2s, which are the sections or the subtitles of the various parts of my article. Each of these 3 sections is of equal importance to the article. We know that because they all use the same level of headline. It's kind of like chapters in a book. Chapter 10 isn't really less important or more important than chapter 3. They just happen to be in that particular order. So chapter 10 headline uses the same font size, the same font color, the same font style as the chapter 1. All the chapters in a book have the exact same font color, font size, font style, and all of the headline 2s within this article would look the same also. They're of equal importance. Now let me throw one more thing at you about headlines, and then we'll just make sure we know about paragraphs. Let's say in my article I have a little aside. Okay. Now an aside is also a new HTML5 structural element. Let's say an aside is kind of like a footnote, something like that. And let's say my aside, maybe somewhere during the article I mention history of bikes or something like that, but it's not really key to my article. So let's say, oops, I should be doing an H1 here, and this is invention of the bicycle. Okay, so, and in fact, let me indent this just so it kind of stands out that this is a separate little subsection within my article. Okay. So now my aside also has a headline 1, and that is basically it's the title or the most important title within the aside. So my web page has a headline 1, sets the title of the page. My article has a headline 1, sets the title of the article, and my aside has a headline 1, which is the title of the aside. Make sense? Hope so. Now within this article, I might have a series of paragraphs, and this part's really easy. So once you've got the headlines down, let's see, headline 1 is bicycling. Let's see, I might start off with a paragraph which has intro to the article. Oops, it's a paragraph. And then my headline 2 has info about types. Of course, there could be multiple paragraphs in here, and so on. And just so we can kind of see this, let me just go and copy this paragraph and realize there can be multiple paragraphs within that particular area. So multiple paragraphs after this headline 2, multiple paragraphs after this headline 2, and so forth. Multiple paragraphs within my aside. So paragraphs, headline 2s are block elements. They separate themselves from surrounding content. So let me kind of give you a quick visual aid of this. Pretend for a second that I have 2 paragraphs and they are side by side. Okay, so under types of bikes, I have 2 paragraphs side by side. But if I go to my web browser and refresh, notice that these 2 paragraphs are one on top of the other. That is the feature of a block element. Okay, block elements do that. Not important to today, but I just want to show you this. I'm going to jump up to my head section real quick. I'm going to put in a style, paragraph, border 2 pixels solid red. I'll talk about CSS more in another article or another video. Okay, let me save this, and I just want to point this out to you. This is another feature of block elements. Block elements, besides separating themselves from their surrounding content with a line space, they also take up the full width available to them. Okay, so I just want you to remember that. That's a behavior of block elements. If I had put borders on my heading 1s and heading 2s, you would see the exact same kind of behavior that we're seeing with our paragraphs. Okay, so for now, headline 1s, keep track of how you use the various levels of headlines. Headline 1, headline 2, headline 3, and if necessary, you get into the 4s, 5s, and 6s. Think of them as an outline. And then, of course, paragraphs. Paragraphs are block elements which contain text, just what you would think a paragraph would be used for. Okay, in the next video, I want to talk about a couple of other structural elements.